flush, come through and flush. What's wrong? I don't know. My baby has been running temperature all night.
Doctor, please, can you take us through the consequences of poor menstrual hygiene?
Thank you very much. Like we talked about before, at this, stage, the puberty stage, that's when most girls start the menstrual, the menstrual cycle, which is a normal period, event that occurs every month, and it's in a cycle. It's a period of, like 1 to 7 days. It varies with different individuals.
Right.
At this period, the girls are meant to take a bath more often. We said morning and night. If there's any more opportunity, they can, take a bath more than 2 times, but 2 times is ideal. But what's essential is they must make sure that they change their towels regularly, because the longer the towel stays in, the longer it gets stale, and it can introduce, foreign bodies into the system. And when foreign body, things that are not meant to be there, gets in the system, it gets you prone to infections. These infections are normally called urinary tract infections. They lodge through, the private parts, and then they go into the system. They cause a burning sensation. They can result in, discharge, which can be foul smelling. And if you don't treat it, because a lot of girls will now keep it, as a secret, or they just think it's normal, that maybe because they didn't change their pad. You must see the doctor so that you get treated. If not, it becomes something more permanent that lodges into, the reproductive tract that I'm sure you're aware of, what that is. So it can get you prone to a pelvic inflammatory disease. That's, highfalutin, but what I'm saying is it lodges into the reproductive tract. So later on in life, it can affect the girls. So we implore you that you should change your towels very frequently.
Is there any time frame?
Yeah, so, and then like she said, it varies with culture. Some people use cloth, some people use pads. Okay. But I think what's ideal is towels, and I think they're not so expensive. But it depends on the social economic status. Some people can afford the towels, but if you must use, the cloth, where they use up north and some places, it must be clean and it must be made of cotton so that it can breathe, and they should make sure they wash it. Okay. You shouldn't wear stained clothes, because that would now lead you to body odor. Because if you're stained, you should make sure that you change from what it is. Okay. And you should change your towels, like, I think between 4 to 6 hours is not bad. Some people would wear the same towel from morning, and they say it's until they get home in the night before they change that. That's not allowed, that would lead to infections, and that would lead to body odor. So you should make sure that you sweat more, you should bathe, and you should use your deodorant at this period, because you'll be emanating smells. We don't want any stale pads and all of that. Okay. So basically, I think if they do that, we should be fine. And then some people use tampons. Tampons too should be changed regularly. If not, there's a medical thing that is called the toxic, tampon shock. They would leave a tampon in them from morning till night, or some of them forget it till the next day. Wow. That's really bad. Those are the ones that you've brought the foreign body directly into the system. So that's not, those are one of the medical things that we see. Wow.
Mrs. George, can you take us through the process of menstrual hygiene?
Yeah, let us take it from the physiological nature of the woman, the way the woman is made. Okay. It's made us in such a way that if care is not taken, we are always very easily prone to infections. Wow. That is there. And that is what we women should actually always take note of. We are very prone. If you look at even the emergence of all these diseases, even like HIV, you will say that it is the woman that is, easily, infected. It is not because of any other thing, but the way we are physiologically built. Okay. And so once we know that, we have that at the back of our minds, I think it will help us a long way. But I think basically one thing those things that we should be looking at is, as women, when we are going to use the toilet, whether if we have the wherewithal, or if we are so endowed and you have your personal toilets, it's okay. But where we do not have our personal toilets, because majority of us may not have the luxury of having our own personal toilets. For we as girls and as women, when we want to use such toilets, I think we should endeavor to clean. Clean the top of the seats, with disinfectant, sort of before we actually sit down. Or better still, some of us take along those tissue papers that you want to roll on the top, for you to actually, sit down. So it's very, very important to ensure that, because sometimes when you sit, this water, the water in the closet actually, come up and all they contain germs, and when they heat, they can actually go in through that, through the vagina. So it's very, very important that we make sure that wherever we want to use is very, very clean. Stay away from toilet roll, stay away from cotton roll. And particularly for those mothers at home, for people who are on contraceptive, this intrauterine contraceptive device, what you call the popular coil, if they use it, if they use things like cotton wool or tissue paper, what do you get? The strands of cotton wool or tissue paper, can accidentally be picked up by the string of that coil, and that can stay there. And blood. Blood is a very good culture medium. I'm sure we learned all that at school. It's a good culture medium for diseases. So if it stays there a very long time, the diseases grow there, and things like this come up. Wow. So it's very, very important that whatever you want to use, please stay away from cotton wool and stay away from the tissue paper. Wow. It's not advisable. We can have clothes, well laundered, well ironed. It's very, very important, so that they don't just put it anywhere. Some people take it out, wash it, and go and put it, maybe dry it on the grass. That is not advisable. Okay. It should be well ironed, it should be dried and stringed, and well ironed before it is actually placed there. Another important information I will give is, when we go to toilet as women and we want to wash, we know the place, the vagina is there and the anus is there. When you are washing as a woman, you wash from the front to the back. Please don't wash from the back to the front. Oh. The anus is a place where the feces comes out from, and it contains a lot of organisms. And so when you wash from the back to the front, you are washing, and you are allowing germs to come into the vagina, which can also go up the way the doctor has said, just like you have said. So as a woman, you wash from the front, to the back. The front is cleaner, but the back is dirtier. So the dirty part is at the back, so you want to wash from. Yes. And for those on tampons, just like we have said, please endeavor to change it. 6 hours is the maximum that you can have in a tampon. If it goes beyond 6 hours, then that will, there will be a problem. Carry extra towels with you when you are going, in case some people are heavy bleeders. You don't want to, part of the cleanliness and the personal hygiene we are talking about is even seeing you. It's not every time you want to be looking at your dress. Please help me check my dress. Yeah. Please help me check my dress. That's not a good one. So we must have extra with us as girls and as women, so that we carry it along, and wherever you have an opportunity, we can change, and so you are good to go. Right, yeah.
I'd like to ask the doctor, for the guys, any consequence if they don't maintain good personal hygiene? Yeah,
basically, if they don't maintain good personal hygiene, like we've said before, they would have body odor. Because their overactivity, they will produce more sweat, so they must bathe regularly. And there is another thing that happens to the guys. At this age too, as the women are doing the menstruation, they have something called, in lay terms, it's called a wet dream, but medically it's nocturnal ejaculation. In the course of sleeping at night, they can have some dreams that would now make them, produce something from their, private part. So if they're in a habit of dodging from bathing in the morning and in the night, it will get dry on them, and then they start smelling. So they are supposed to make sure that they take it seriously, that they must bathe. And if they indulge in sports like, the football and all of that, when they get back, they should shower again, and they must use the right deodorant, like we've said, because you have to block it and then release it at night. After you shower, it would breathe, like Mrs. George has said. You open the pores, but in the morning after bathing, you must block it with deodorant so that you don't have body odor. So that's what they have that is similar to the menstruation. The wet dreams, they must bathe. So
thank you very much. A round of applause for our guests. One last question before I go to my audience. I'm sure you have 1 or 2 questions to ask. But before you do, let me ask this. Hands are one of the major and primary method of getting diseases and bacteria. Could you tell us more on this, please?
Yeah, like we've said, and the state health educator has promised us, she's going to show us, how to, do hand washing. Hand washing is one of the most effective preventive ways of preventing so many infections. Because if you don't wash it, like all what we've been saying, menstruation, blah, you have to wash your hands. If you use the toilet, you have to wash your hands afterwards. If you want to eat, you have to wash your hands. And when you finish, when you cough, when you sneeze, when you're around ill people, you must always wash your hands. When you're about to go into a place where there are newborns, that's babies and stuff, you must wash your hands before you carry them and all of that. Because the hands transport a lot of germs that we all take for granted. That's why we emphasized on it that your nails must be kept very short and clean. In fact, you can use a nail brush to make sure you brush to clean under the skin, because there are lots of organisms that lodge under the nail beds. So if you're not careful, you just start using. And then we encourage and implore you that you should use cutlery pieces. It helps to prevent, all this introduction of the germs that the hands naturally carry. So at least if you use cutlery pieces, you would prevent, introducing infections to you. There's also another thing called thread worms that it lodges in the, in the intestines, that's in the system. So basically you can carry it and it lives under the nail beds in the hands and around the anus and the vagina. So you notice that it's also called pinworms. A lot of people, you see them scratching their bum and all of that. When they scratch the, the anus, the anal area, the eggs of the organisms can also lodge under the fingernails. Wow. So if you're not careful, you are eating without, washing your hands, you are introducing it again back into your system. So the eggs lay eggs in, what you're taking in, it will now lay eggs again in your system, and it can thrive in your stomach for 6 weeks. That causes abdominal discomfort. Wow. And then when you lay it out again, when, it continues its own cycle, and then you start itching again. Commonly, you see it in little children. That's why we make sure that immediately you wake them up in the mornings, the first thing is you should make sure you wash their hands and you take a bath. You should discourage them from sucking their thumb, because they would have scratched in the night and then they introduce it. So it keeps on going. So these are ways that we can, prevent it. When we encourage ourselves that we should always wash our hands, we'll prevent diseases like cholera, because that one too comes. And like she said, the feces, that's the poo, it has a lot of organisms. So if you're cleaning and you don't clean properly and you leave the toilet, you just start eating, you are introducing all those organisms in you. So hand washing is something that, it would prevent so many diseases that we can't even exhaust.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mrs. George. We've been able to learn a lot from our guest in the house. Please, a round of applause for our guest. Let's have Miriam come with water as Mrs. George takes us through proper hand washing. Thank you so much, Miriam.
Yeah, thank you, Miriam. So just like we have heard from Dr. Adeleke about the inexhaustible diseases we could catch from not washing our hands. So it is proper for us to know how to wash our hands, because majorly some of us will just get to the tap, put water there and go away. Some of us, we do what we like, and majority of the times we don't get away the germs, which is not good enough. So there are those magical moments that you need to wash your hands. We must stress that. I know she said it, and I would also want to stress it again. That number one, when you visit the toilet and you are out of the toilet, please wash your hands. It's very, very important. I'm sure you will listen to all those things that we've said about, that place. Number two, when you want to eat, before and after eating, it's also very, very important, to wash our hands. When we have touched anything that is dirty, or maybe you have cleaned your house and so on and so forth, those are some times that we should always wash our hands. It's very, very important. It doesn't take us any time. Just about 2 or 3 minutes, even 30 seconds, we are done with hand washing. We can do it in 30 minutes. We do it in 30 minutes because we've learned how to do it. But actually, you can do it in 30 minutes. How do you do it? If you want to wash your hands, you need water and you need soap. Those are the 2 basic things that you need. Where there is no water, there is no proper hand washing. Where there is no soap, there is no proper hand washing. Please take that message back home. If our sisters and our junior ones want to wash hands, even our mom, tell them, they said it's soap and water. No soap, no proper hand washing. So if I want to wash my hands, particularly if I'm looking at preparing food or something like that, we are only allowed to have our wedding bands on for those of us who are married. All other rings that we put on, we need to remove when we are doing that, because we need to wash up to our wrist. So it's only the wedding band that is allowed, so we can leave that on. So how do you start? Can I have the water open? The first thing you do is to remove all those things I have said, your ring, your wristwatch, your bangles, and then I wet my hand. That's the first step. I wash, wet my hands with water, and then I have soap. It doesn't have to be this. It can be any type of soap. It can be the soap you are using to take your bath at home. Any kind of soap will do. So what do? In 30 seconds. And for you to know it's 30 seconds, what am I going to do? I'm going to wash palm to palm. That is rubbing my palms together. I will wash in between. That's something we should do. I turn this one on top of this, and I wash. That is palm to back of hand. I do that for the second hand, palm to the back of the hand. This, my thumb, I rub it in here to make sure, because she was talking about germs lodging, those places. What do? You do it like this. I do this one again and do this. I rub everything together. You can see that there isn't much soap. Maybe my hand is very dirty. But in 30 minutes, you can do that. So there used to be a song that we sing for at least 30 seconds to ensure that we have used those 30 seconds. And it